I'm going to walk through the CyberPower PR2000RT2U the way I would if I were standing in front of a rack, wondering whether this UPS is really worth the slot and the price tag. I've spent a few weeks pulling apart a couple of small office setups and a home lab, swapping out power strips, trying different UPS models, and reading through the handful of reviews that actually talk about daily use. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. What I want to give you is a straightforward look at how this unit performs when you actually plug it into the wall, hook your servers or workstations to it, and see if the extra features translate into real peace of mind or just more things to manage. First, let's talk about why buying a UPS feels like a gamble. The market is crowded with devices that promise infinite runtime or military-grade protection, but the reality is you're often balancing three things: how much equipment you need to keep alive, how long you need that equipment to stay on during a brownout, and how much you're willing to spend for those minutes. For a typical small office or a home lab, the biggest fear is spending $400 on a unit that only keeps a couple of servers alive for 10 minutes, or worse, buying a cheap strip that leaves you vulnerable to power spikes. On the flip side, underspecifying means you could be staring at a dead server just as you're about to push a critical backup, and that downtime can cost far more than the price of the UPS. The PR2000RT2U sits in the 2000VA/2000W class, which immediately tells you it can handle a decent load, roughly a mid-range workstation plus a couple of network switches, or a single small server with modest peripherals. That's a good baseline if you're running a home lab where you might have a NAS, a 24-inch monitor, and a router all plugged in. What makes this model stand out is the 8 NEMA 520R outlets, which are the kind you actually see on most power strips. You don't have to juggle adapters or worry about mismatched plugs, you just plug in the gear you already own. In practice, that means you can hook a UPS-aware desktop, a network switch, a small UPS-compatible router, and even a USB-C charger for a phone without buying extra adapters. The convenience factor is subtle but real: less cable clutter and fewer chances to forget a device during a power event. The LCD panel on the front is rotatable and tiltable, a feature you'll appreciate if your rack is low to the floor or if you have a wall-mounted cabinet that makes a straightened view impossible. The screen isn't a glossy smartphone-type display, it's a simple, high-contrast readout that shows input voltage, battery charge, load percentage, and estimated runtime. In the field, I found the runtime estimate to be surprisingly accurate for short tests. A 15-minute backup on a 600W load matched what the screen predicted. That kind of reliability matters when you're deciding whether to keep a VM running or shut it down cleanly. One of the hidden trade-offs in a unit of this size is the weight and the noise. At just over 70 pounds, the PR2000RT2U is definitely a rack-mountable beast, not something you'd want to move around often. The fan does kick in under load, and in a quiet office it becomes audible after a few minutes. If you're planning to place it in a server closet with other equipment, you'll want to make sure there's enough airflow, otherwise the UPS itself can become the hottest component. The noise isn't a deal-breaker for most data center-type environments, but for a home office where the rack sits near a workspace, you might notice a low hum. Now, let's address the smart app claim. CyberPower ships a mobile app that lets you monitor battery status, set alarms, and even initiate a graceful shutdown of connected devices via a US to serial cable. The app itself is functional, it shows the same data you see on the LCD, and you can receive push notifications when the battery is low or when the input voltage drifts out of the AVR range. The catch is that you need to run a small piece of software on a PC to translate those signals into shutdown commands, which adds a layer of configuration. If you're comfortable setting up a script on a Windows or Linux box, the app can be a genuine safety net. If you'd rather avoid extra software, you can still rely on the UPS's built-in alarm beeps and the LCD warnings, but you lose the remote convenience. Who should buy this? If you run a small server rack, a home lab, or an office where a few critical machines can't afford an abrupt loss of power, the PR2000RT2U offers a solid mix of capacity and management tools. The 8 outlets mean you won't need a second strip, and the AVR, automatic voltage regulation, helps smooth out those annoying voltage sags that can cause intermittent network issues. The 3-year warranty that includes the batteries is also a confidence boost.